You're good to go.
Great. Good evening. This is Peter Olkers. I'm Vice Chair of the Needham Conservation Commission. I'd like to open the meeting of Thursday, March the 25th, 2021. Before I do so, I have some things to say. As a preliminary matter, this is Peter Olkers, Conservation Commission Vice Chair. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Artie.
Here.
Sue.
Yes.
Allison.
Yes.
I think that's it for us right now. Steph, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Debbie.
Here.
Clay.
Here.
All right, and then we have a number of panelists tonight. Susan MacArthur. Oh, anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Susan MacArthur.
Yes, here. Sorry, I had it on mute.
Thank you.
Yep.
Pete Zaitsev. I don't see him on the list right now.
He isn't attending.
Great. Tim Paris.
Not attending.
Mark Harding.
Yeah.
Great. And for the other hearing, Charles Labie. Is that it? Labie?
It's Labby.
Labie. Charles Sabella.
Yeah.
Eric Feely.
I'm here as well.
Michael Smith. May not be here. Mike Mostel. Mike, can you hear me? Mike Ruda. Sam Doolin. It looks like a bunch of names on that list aren't here yet. I guess hopefully they'll be here when we actually have that hearing. All right. Good evening. This open meeting of the Town of Needham Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March the 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Needham Conservation Commission is convening by Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. The general public is allowed and encouraged to ask questions during the meeting when directed by the commission chair and through the use of the raise hand feature associated with the Zoom meeting app. Those that have questions or comments regarding a particular hearing will be called upon in the order they raise their hand, so please be patient. All supporting materials have been provided to members of this body and are available on the Conservation Commission website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each hearing on the agenda. I will introduce the applicant and/or their consultant to begin the project presentation. After they conclude their presentation, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide comment or questions. Please hold your name until your name is called. Further, Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not talking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you, and please state your name before speaking. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. All right, so let's turn to the first item on the agenda, miscellaneous business. Do we have minutes?
No minutes today.
Okay. Any enforcement or violation updates?
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll move on to our hearing for the night. This would be 94 Brookside Road, DEP file number 234861. This is a continued notice of intent. So who's here representing? Is it Susan?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so tell us why, or I think I have some idea why you're here tonight, but can you explain it to the
Yes.
commission?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Susan MacArthur from MacArthur Environmental Consulting. And when we left off last at the last hearing, the commission had a pretty long discussion about the backyard lawn and the 25-foot buffer zone, locally regulated buffer zone, as well as plantings and whatnot. And Peter Zaitsev, who was the owner, has since sold the property to Mark Harding, who is on this Zoom at the Zoom meeting. And I am going to turn it over to Mark to discuss the backyard lawn and our, the stance on how we feel about that. So Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you. And I think you may want to share your screen if you have the photos. If not,
I'm Mark Harding. Do I have the ability to share the screen, Clay? Yeah. Okay.
You should see a green share screen button at the
I see it. Okay, perfect. So I'm the new owner of 94 Brookside. And obviously I worked with Susan and the previous owner to put the plan in front of you previously. I want to take a little bit of a step back because the reports I heard of the last meeting, I think went off on a little bit of a tangent from where I thought it was going to go. The gentleman who owned the property burnt down in May 2019. It was a 4 or 5 alarm fire. The fire started in hoarded trash and debris in the backyard. The fire department was hampered to get into the house because there were exploding gas cylinders. The whole house was full as a hoarder full, instead of it being, and this is from the building department, instead of the tear down, when they did tear it down, and instead of it being 1 truckload, it was 2 3/4 truckloads of debris was removed. The backyard obviously was on fire. The trash was on fire in the backyard. That then spread to the marsh, and the fire department had to fight their way through the trash, the exploding trash, or go around it. So they got out into the marsh to put out the fire in the marsh. So the debris has been superficially cleared away, but there's still broken glass and different charred things in the ground right there. That debris went about halfway across the yard. The yard now, with most of that debris removed, other than the stuff that's in the soil, when you rake back the leaves, you see it's still grass. It's still a lawn back there. It's not returning to nature. The only thing that's gone on is, and this, I think Peter was fairly accurate in this, he hasn't maintained the shrubbery that was there. So you have a lot of stuff which is escaping the yard into the marsh rather than the marsh repopulating this land. I got some pictures of the grass if you'd like to see it. I raked a few, some of the leaves off so you can see the grass is sitting there right now. If you look at any of the aerials the town has, the 2017, you can see it's delineated by the fence line that the grass is exactly where you expect. If you move along every house to the left or the right along that side, grass goes down to the water at every single house. The yard I have is the smallest yard of 25 yards. The land that 94 Brookside owns goes 60, 70 feet into the marsh further than that. So we have the smallest yard of all the houses. If you look at the aerials, you could extend Wellesley Country Club and play through on some of these yards with the beautiful grasses they have rolling right down to the water. So the fence is in place. It's been there since 1970. The grass is intact. It's there. Whether Mr. So I said was the best gardener in the world, I won't argue that he probably wasn't, but it certainly is still a lawn, and I would like to remain as a lawn because there's not a lot of space back there to actually utilize the back garden. So, do you want to see the pictures, or what would be the best course of action?
I think it would be helpful to show the photos.
Okay.
Yes, please show the photos.
So here you're looking across, obviously the erosion barriers are still in place here. I've raked up some of these. You can see the grass goes right through. We have some of this is some kind of rose bush, which is ripping my hands up as I'm raking. It's not overly pleasant. This is the bottom of the yard, going a little bit further up. 1 second. Looking back the other way. You can see it runs right through here. And then if we go into this kind of stuff, this is what we're looking at in the ground. Children's toys, burnt and charred remains, shards of glass, pottery. This is all the stuff that I'm going to rake out and get rid of. But this is a result of a fire and debris being on fire in one section, and the rest of the lawn obviously hasn't been maintained for the last 2 years. But it's still, you look at it now without all the branches from the dead tree above. I cleared out a huge brush pile of all those dead branches, and there's no question. It was night and day. So I can see how anyone who went down there when it was snow on the ground looked at it and thought that it was some kind of like new forest, but it was broken, not broken, dead branches and fairly substantial branches, which I pulled out and then just raked the leaves up to get it back to that kind of situation. 1 second, I'll do something else now. Let's go. So this is the area we're in. Obviously, I think this is your sister. I think this is a Wellesley house here that has a alternative par 9 to play. But if we go down a little bit, you can see 94 is right here. This is the backyard. I'm sorry, here. This is where the land runs that 94 owns, because it goes right out into the marsh and around here. And obviously this is all that. We discovered that this whole bank running along this way was most likely excavated for gravel back in the past, because this is all very nice sand and gravel right underneath here. But you can look at all of these, and if I, oh, no, sorry, I'll try and move it. Yeah, you can see it's that was 4 years ago. And then if I can't drag this, so I can't drag this. Well, anyway, is that enough, or should I keep going? What else can I do? We can have a look at this. This is again another town of. This is from the building department that's sent over to me to look at the different plots. You can see all these other yards are lawns right down to the water. You can see we stop right here, and we have a significant amount of land which is already given over to natural habitat compared to all our neighbors. I just would prefer the plan that we submitted with Susan MacArthur to be passed as is without an amendment.
Yeah, so our point is that, we did say we wanted to restore the existing lawn, and, that's true. And I think, the commission was under the impression, I think from the previous homeowner at the last hearing, that he let it go and it wasn't lawn, but as you can see, there is lawn under there, you know, after the leaves have been raked and whatnot. As Mark said, maybe he wasn't the best landscaper, but, you know, or took care of it that well, but it is grass, and, you know, it would be a small, it's just a small backyard as it is, and he would like to just keep it, you know, the fence is in place, and he'd like to keep it that way as lawn.
All right. Thank you very much for your presentation. This is personally, this is the kind of thing I was looking for in terms of making the argument. But before I ask you questions, let me turn it over to the commissioners and see if they have any additional questions. Sue?
I do have a question. What's going to happen with the fence?
So the intention was to keep the fence or repair the damaged areas, and that was the thought. It's designed as a dog run, so that the only place where it's not functioning at the moment is where the fire department went through and crushed the fence with whatever they crossed it with to get through. But it surrounds the backyard and goes right up to the side of the house with a gate on both sides.
So that fence is going to be repaired and in its same footings?
Yes.
Okay.
Sue, is that enough?
Yeah, I do have lots of other questions, but I'll wait. You can
Okay.
go on.
Artie?
Do we know what essentially let's call it elevations are between the backyard and the flood, the wetlands back there? Do we have any sense of what the elevations are? Anyone know?
I think they're on the plot plan.
Yeah, they're on the plan.
They're on the plan. We don't have the plan up on the screen though.
It is a slope. It's not a steep slope.
Yeah, I mean, I can see some essence of a slope there. Just wasn't sure when you hit the fence. At some point, where does the water come up to when it starts flooding out? Where does it go up to in the land? And I mean, I keep hearing people, you know, I shouldn't say people, I mean, you know, talk about grass and grass and grass. And the thing is, I mean, that's grass is fine to a limited point, but it's right up against essentially right up against the wetlands. And so, unfortunately, homeowners don't usually have the best care in keeping their grass, as far as using chemicals on it, which don't match wetlands. So, I mean, that's a concern I have.
Yeah, so it's the job of the Conservation Commission to make sure that a certain buffer is maintained in order to protect the integrity of the wetland. And this is not an unimportant wetland. Sometimes our decisions are guided by the fact that what is a wetland is more like a ditch. In this case, this is a thriving wetland and a water resource for the town of Wellesley. So the context is a little bit different than usual. On the other hand, in the bylaw, you are allowed to keep a lawfully constructed lawn that was there before 1988, which I think that is the argument that you're making.
Yes.
78, I think. Yeah.
Well, why do we think that was there before '88?
The house was from the 70s, I believe. So I'm sure they had a lawn at the time that the house was in place.
And the fence is shown on the plan.
Okay. Okay.
All right, let's see. Allison, do you have any questions?
The only one is, and I don't know if this applies, but typically if there's a fence and it's at the edge of the wetland, that we like to have the fence a little bit above the finished grade so that turtles and stuff can move underneath it. I don't know if, because it's a pre-existing condition, if that's something that we can ask for, but that is something that we typically ask for when someone's putting in a new fence. And that's my only comment. Oh, the other thing was that there's grass and there's grass and there's grass. I mean, there's the grass that I see, that's the green grass, is a typical lawn, but then there's grass. It could be like or more wild grasses that you can still mow that keep it not as low as lawn, but and that has more native species. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that you do that. You don't have to do that, but there are more meadow type grass areas that that support more birds and insects and things like that. If you were so inclined, which it doesn't sound like you are. It's just I'm just saying that. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Allison. Bill?
I'm sorry. No, I already brought up my concern with fertilizers and things like that. Big concern. But is it wet enough that you're not going to have to irrigate or add any additional irrigation? Is it pretty damp and that it will sort of support just regular growth rather than adding more water?
I don't think it's that damp, but I think the grass will do fine. It's grown all this time without any irrigation, so I think it.
At least at this time, there's no plans to irrigate.
No.
Sprinkler, no.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
Good evening. No questions. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for the presentation. I think
Sue had more questions as well.
oh yes,
Peter.
thank you. Sue, so now's your chance.
I know, I'll be quick. I know they're going to have mitigation planned with shrubs. Is there any chance of putting some shrubs up against the fence to kind of, contain some of that 25-foot versus all lawn?
So I think Susan's original plan did have shrubs running along the fence. And then we were refocused on replacing the trees and putting a mixture of shrub and trees along the other side. I'm very happy to put a row of shrubs along the fence. What I don't want to stick my neck out here, I think we've said, someone mentioned wild blueberries or some degree of blueberry. I think that would suit me down to the ground if that's something you guys would want. But again, that's not an area of my specialty. Certainly when I look at the shrubs that are there now that are climbing over the fence going the other way, yeah, you probably don't want most of those because they seem to be fairly aggressive. But we would be happy to put shrubs along the fence line stroke, depending on where the barrier for runoff is. We got to find some balance between the two.
All right. Sue, do you have any other questions?
I don't. I just want to say I think it's wonderful that I've seen the site and it's amazing what the cleanup that has to be done. So I just want to say I think I commend the effort with all that. It will extremely improve the area.
I think so. We want it to be. The reason we want to live there is beautiful. We're as far into the preserving the beauty of the spot as you guys are, but we also need it to be functional. Whatever rules you have in place for all my neighbors for fertilizers and everything, I'm going to adhere to the same rules. So
Deb, I wonder if you could help me understand. Oh, sorry, Artie, you have another question?
I just want to make sure I understand. So there was the original owner, the property burned down. He sold it to someone else that came to us the last meeting or the meeting before to try to have his plans of what he wanted to do and so forth. Then since then, he has sold it then to you.
No.
I was at that other meeting, so I was always the silent viewer of the. I wasn't unfortunately at the last meeting, so that's why we asked.
Are you buying it from the person who owned it when it burned down?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Peter sold it to me, and I took the deed on Monday.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, and you're going to repair the fence. Is this something? Is this look like you're going to take the chain link part down and put new chain link part up? Or I guess what I'm getting at is this. I mean, I think it certainly makes perfect sense that you like to improve it make it look better. When you do that, I think that's an opportunity that we would like you to then make sure that there's a gap under the fence for wildlife to then go under, because that makes a huge difference on habitats where they can nest and do. And you'd probably like that fact that existed.
And I did hear in the previous meeting the 6-inch underneath the fence, 6-inch gap. Is that something that can be done as small areas of run? So like a little boxed area that's 6 inches and the box protrudes into the garden rather than 6 inches right along, or how does that work? Because obviously we have a dog. We don't want the dog escaping and we don't want things digging in. So once you give my dog 6 inches, he's an ambitious pup.
Yeah, I guess I don't know the answer to that, but I can appreciate the fact that you need to make sure that the little guy stays in there. So I'm not sure.
Deborah Clay, what's the standard for fences?
So definitely in this instance, along this wetland, you would normally require a 6-inch gap along the entire bottom. Additionally, I mean, historically, you look to get part of that 25-foot back. And, this is kind of your opportunity to do that. And while there may have been lawn there, they are doing work in your 100-foot buffer zone. And it's a give and take. And I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, so let me sort of rehearse the reasons why the 25-foot buffer zone is important to us. Part of it is wildlife, but that is not the most important reason. Part of it is to have space between and an opportunity for potentially harmful chemicals, whether it's in fertilizer or whether it's in, which aren't technically allowed in these areas. But another concern when you mention a dog is dog feces and dog urine being washed into the wetland from the yard is actually a legitimate concern that we have that motivates a buffer. So our job is to make sure that the integrity of that wetland is protected. And so I think Deb is right that what we'd like to see is either the fence being moved up so it's not right up against the wetland, so there's actually some separation between what you consider your yard and what the wetland is. I think the idea of planting shrubs as a kind of a tier barrier makes a lot of sense, particularly along the side of the yard, back of the yard that is closest to the wetland. I think one side is very close, the other side is not as close, and so we'd really want that separation on the side that it's close. The other thing is that we allow existing lawns to be maintained, but I don't believe we allow them to be replaced. In other words, you don't grade and tear up everything that's there and then put sod down. And that's not the style that we're talking about here. I mean, if there's grass, you can maintain it as the grass that's there. You can try to get more grass to grow. We always encourage wildflower mix, so it's a little bit more keeping with the environmentally sensitive nature of the buffer zone. That's the kind of thing we would encourage. So what I hope is that we get a revised plan where there is some reasonable separation. It doesn't have to go all the way up to the 25-foot line, but there's some reasonable separation, division between some way of protecting, whether it's a barrier of shrubs, the movement of the fence, or both. Right. So I think the original plan had the trees along the back. When you realize that those could be shrubs, and therefore you could maintain that you wouldn't have trees growing into your view, But I think shrubs pay, you know, a large value there. And you're right, there are varieties of blueberries that might thrive in that area. And those are the kinds we would like to see for all sorts of reasons, including wildlife value. Anyone else have a thought? Yes, Mark.
Just to recap, obviously, when Sue originally suggested this, we weren't looking to resod the lawn. We were looking to use, and I think Sue said, a native mix of seed to go back. So the plan was to rake it out. Obviously, we need to rake it out because it's got broken glass and ceramics and all sorts of other things in there. Part of the equation is the stormwater management system is being dug in at the back there as well. So there's going to be fairly heavy equipment coming in. As for a give and take, I've got to work out how to get out a 1930 truck that's buried in the soil without disturbing the soil and the bank to get it out. So, I've got to levitate this old truck out, this safe. I've got to get rid of all the blocks of concrete that have been tossed over there. I'm working pretty hard already, and the fence, changing the fence or moving the fence isn't part of my budget. So that's why I'm looking to keep it there, because it's the physical cost of maintaining a fence and putting one in is fairly expensive. But I'm going to be doing a lot of work on this land, and the requirements on the trees is already not cheap, and to a certain extent they're going into places where you probably don't need quite as many trees as are there already. So we're looking to do a good job. We're looking to remove everything we can that we can and improve it, but we're also looking to rake out that backyard and have a lawn with a fenced in backyard, which has been there since 1978. So that's kind of our position. So it does make me wonder when I look at this map that's on the screen right now, is that if any of these people come in front of you, do they lose their yard? Are they forced to fence in every single one of these people? Is that what's happening from now on?
Yeah, Mark, just to assure you that this is applied pretty consistently in cases, particularly where there's a valuable wetland at stake. So you'll see a lot of cases historically where we've asked people to take back some of the 25, and it's usually in the case where the line is right up against the wetland.
So I've been right down this, right along every single house here, and the least offensive house is this one by a long way.
Yeah, we're not hearing the other houses on this street. I understand from a historical point of view, it helps your credibility in claiming that there's always been a yard there. But until those properties come to us with hearings, it's hard to know what we would determine in those cases.
It's physical record on the map. You can look right at them right now, and all that. I didn't create this map. This photograph was taken. Other options like 2011.
So again, technically, if we know of a violation, if we know something was done after a certain date, so if we know of a violation, we certainly in the past, we have done something about that known violation. Mm-hmm. If a homeowner comes to us, the house hasn't burned down, but they come to us because they want to make some change related to their yard. They want to put a small deck on, a little small addition on. We will then reassess what's going on in the whole yard.
I definitely appreciate that. So this house did burn down, and the changes that have been required by the Board of Health. That there was an old septic with 2 cesspits running, basically behind the house. The septic system that we've been approved here, honestly, NASA has less technology going into their toilet system. So this is a $70,000 septic system. that's going in with those requirements. This isn't a small undertaking across the board, and it's been forced because unfortunately the house burned down. You know, if the house hadn't burnt down, we wouldn't be sitting in front of you now. And it definitely feels like there's a degree of penalization for that unfortunate situation.
No, please trust that there's no penalty associated with the permitting process in this town. That people come in front of us and they present their plans, and we try to judge whether those plans are satisfactory to the standards as listed in the Wetlands Protection Act and the town bylaw. In your case, you're right, there's a lawn. It seems to have been lawfully there since the proper grandfathering period. On the other hand, because you're in our buffer zone, we do have the right to require certain conditions be met before we can approve a plan. So you can approve, I mean, if you come back to us with the same plan, we have the right to reject it. And so that's why often we like these things to be hashed out during these hearings in order that there are no surprises at the end of a hearing.
But my understanding is you're requiring me to remove the fence. Is that correct?
To remove the fence?
No.
So
No, we're not. We're not. No, it's what we would like to see.
Okay.
But at minimum, what we'd like is separation. I mean, the easiest way to create that separation would be to move the fence so it's not right up against the wetland. So the minute you go over the fence, you're not in wetland. But there are other ways to create that barrier. It's up to you to come up with a plan that does that.
Okay, and hypothetically, without you having to agree right now, what we're looking at is some degree of shrubs inside the fence line, rather than the lawn that runs right against the fence.
Correct.
Right. I also want to point out that for this project, we have proposed a suite of mitigation measures to offset any adverse impacts to the resource area. You know, we're going to put an erosion control barrier prior to the start of work. We've cited the foundation expansion away from the resource area, closer to the road. Cleaning up all that debris will be a huge improvement. That includes cinder blocks, tires, wood. You saw the debris in the soil, the old vehicle, the safe. Also installing that stormwater management unit in the backyard to capture the clean rooftop runoff and infiltrate it into the soil. And then, you know, a host of plantings, trees and shrubs throughout the property. So, you know, I would hope that counts for something.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the clear things that's true of that backyard is the number of invasives that have come in. So, you know, that's another mitigation thing that certainly you can claim if that's part of the plan.
Right. There's a lot of bittersweet, I think, that's trying to jump the fence.
Yes, as in everywhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it will kill the trees too if you don't watch it out for it.
Right.
Peter.
Yes, sir.
I have my hand raised. I just wanted to say that I know as a commission we've tried very hard to be consistent on upkeeping that 25-foot buffer zone with a little give and take. And I think the tremendous amount of mitigation that they're doing with cleaning that the tar, the safe, the cinder. I mean, I've seen it. That's going to be hard work, but it's going to be a beautiful area with after all that mitigation with the trash removed.
Thanks, sir.
So I just wanted to add.
Any other commissioners have additional comments? Appears not. Do we have any people in the audience?
There are no raised hands in the audience.
No raised hands. All right, so we will continue this hearing. I mean, are we clear about in not in the specifics, but in general, the idea of separating probably through the use of shrubs and having a planting plan for that backyard? You've already proposed, is this in the application materials? You've already proposed seeding that not with you know, sod, but with some sort of native mix.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So I think we'll be able to have to see a planting plan by next meeting.
Mark,
Yep.
A week before the meeting, Peter.
Yeah, so we'll need it by next Thursday in order to distribute it to commission members.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank
All right.
you.
okay.
All right, so we'll be looking for a planting plan. Is that the only thing that we're still looking for, Deb, so that we can finally close this out?
I think the commission had asked for a little bit more detail on how to remove the car and the safe without scouring the earth, if you will. You know, we're thinking
Yeah.
maybe
And you guys weren't interested in the arborist, right?
no. Oh,
So the car, I think fundamentally will have to be initially hauled, and then we can get it onto a skid. But you know, obviously at the moment it's half buried, so it does have to be pulled out of the earth at that level, and then we can get it on a skid and bring it round, basically through where the fire department went through the fence there, which is fairly rough already, and then we'll bring it back up that way.
Does that make sense?
If we can get it onto a trailer with wheels, we'll do that as a preference over a skid. But basically, we're going to take it the easiest way we can. So,
And without damaging the buffer and certainly not the wetland. And
Yeah,
that-
I mean, we'll make a condition about it.
yeah,
Okay.
the only place
Order,
where there has to be some damage, obviously, is pulling it out of the ground where it's buried.
right.
After
So
that, we
one of the conditions would be restoration, probably.
Mm-hmm.
so
Um,
now, obviously, so it's removed. We're not going to add any soil back in that's not already there. You just basically flatten it off or level it out, or
it'll just regrow in that area.
so as long as we don't leave it as a gaping hole, you're fine. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
and the safe, is that
The safe isn't too bad. It's about a 3 foot by 2 foot safe with a concrete base. So it's probably about 600-700 pounds that we can lift. That's not a problem.
okay?
You know, obviously, first thing we'll do is drill it and find out how much money's inside it.
Or water?
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Be like Al Capone's safe on TV many
Yeah,
years ago.
actually, Mark, yes, this is
Geraldo
actually
come and-
this is an
Geraldo can come and
opportunity.
open it for
Yeah,
us.
opportunity.
This
TV
is a
rights.
great opportunity. We could sell TV
Yep.
time for this.
Yep, sell the TV rights. Conservation Commission, take out an ad on it.
All right. So, I mean, we'll hopefully get the required material by next Thursday. We'll distribute it to commission members, and then, you know, ideally this gets closed out next meeting.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
So I need a motion to continue
So
to
moved.
April 8th.
So moved.
All right, so Artie, any second?
Second.
All right, I'll go down the line. Artie,
Yes.
Sue,
Hi.
Allison,
Aye.
Bill,
All right.
and Steve.
Aye.
And me, aye. Okay, so this hearing will be continued April 8th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Once again, we'll still be on Zoom.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so two other pieces of business, and there are a lot of people for the Highland Ave Bridge discussion. So we have a request for minor modification, Highland Ave Bridge Project, DEP file number 234817. I understand there are a number of people here representing different aspects of this request. If I believe the application, there were 3 sections. And so my assumption would be people talk about section 1, section 2, section 3. So who wants to begin to present what you're proposing?
I can start. I am Marie Sullivan. I'm with Stantec, who is the designer for the corridor project. And I guess I'll start by just kind of going through who's on the phone. We have a few people from Mass DOT, Charles Sabella, Charles Labby, and Eric Feely are all with Mass DOT. And then we have Mike Madstall and Mike Smith from Gioso, who is the contractor currently constructing the project. So I'd like to share my screen. Screen 1, here we go. Can everyone see my screen? Which is a plan of the corridor, or do you see a green tent?
I don't see any green tent.
Oh, okay. So sorry, I have 2 screens. I just wasn't sure. I'm not a Zoom user. I usually, sorry, I usually use Teams. Here we go. Okay, now can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, sure. We see your desktop.
Excellent. You see my desktop or you see the plan?
No, we see the desktop.
If you have a second screen plugged in, when you go to share screen at the bottom, one of the options should be, like, you should be able to share screen 2, it should be listed as.
Okay, let me try that.
So we're seeing figure 1, temporary pole and overhead wires.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, great. So you know, obviously we had put together an NOI back in 2008, and actually Sue MacArthur was with DOT back then, and she helped us get through this. So it was nice to see her on the call earlier. So as we continued through the design, one of the kind of last minute changes related to the overhead utilities was to put in a temporary overhead wire system at the bridge. So basically this graphic is showing this red line that starts up here. This is where the final utility line will go, which is right at the back of the sidewalk and along the bridge. And in order for us to construct the wall system needed for the cantilevered sidewalk, we need to put in a temporary utility pole on each side of the bridge, one in Needham, one in Newton. And with that, the overhead wire needs 10 feet of clearance on both sides. And the 10 feet of clearance is mainly so if a storm comes, the trees won't knock down the wires and lose power for this whole corridor. So with that, we need to remove some additional trees that we were not originally planning on removing. So that's the first item that is new.
Can I just ask a question? So that's on the Needham side that you had to remove another tree?
Yes, there's actually several trees, but most of them are less than 6 inches in diameter at breast height.
Okay, thanks. Sorry.
No problem. And so the second issue we have is, I'm just going to kind of buzz through a few of these slides. I'll come back to the tree removal and the mitigation momentarily. So this slide here represents the work that needs to be done underneath the arch. Sorry about that. Underneath the arch for construction of the bridge. So, or I'm sorry, not construction of the bridge. We're maintaining the bridge. It would be to put temporary support underneath this arch for when they attach the cantilevered sidewalk to the bridge. So the next slide here is a cross section of what that would look like. And essentially, you can see the photograph of what this southern arch span.
Let me say something now. I have the PDF file open so I can change pages and follow along, but we are actually I'm actually just seeing you right now. I'm not seeing anything being shared. I don't know if anyone else cares or if anyone else is getting the same thing, but I'm not seeing it.
No, I see it.
Marie, I can see the slide though. Marie, it's Chuck. I can see the slide.
I see it too. I see the slide, the arch.
Okay, so it's just me.
I see it.
I'll check my screen to see what's going on with that. Might have been just me. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. So I'll just for your benefit, we're on figure 8. Okay. And so this is a cross-section view of the temporary support that's needed under the bridge. And in order to put this temporary support, we need to remove some of these stones that line the bottom and replace it with a temporary concrete leveling pad or footing to put the temporary supports on. So this picture right here of the I-beam, that is essentially what this material is. That's going to go vertical and then curved. And then pea stone up on the top to fill the gap. And what this is going to do is when we get on top of the bridge and we excavate what we need to install the new sidewalk, this will help protect it so the arch doesn't collapse underneath. So ideally, what will happen is it'll take about 2 weeks for them to come in here and install this, and which is this plan right here. So the red lines are sandbags, and the idea is to do this in dry season. So it'll look more like this photo. So we're not impacting the water. And so back on figure 7. So the gray in the picture represents the temporary footings needed for the support system. The blue line on the top side of the sandbags represents the turbidity curtain that we're proposing. And the purple area is more or less where people need to walk and where the equipment has to go in order to build the temporary support system. And in order for us to get underneath here, we need to have a path basically from the road to get underneath. So where we're putting this temporary utility pole, this is kind of, what we need for clearing for the utilities will also provide us the access that we need to get under the bridge. On the, let's call it the top side, we do need to remove some trees. Again, all of the trees on this side were less than 6 inches, with the exception of the one tree that's right underneath where we need to build a wall. And I'll show you some photos of that. And then our third request is once this temporary support system is removed, they're going to come in with scaffolding and repoint the stone underneath. We anticipate that the installation of this support system will be 2 weeks. We anticipate that it will be in place for 12 to 15 months. And then we need another 2 weeks to remove the remove the support and use the scaffolding to repoint the underside of the arch. So to get back to figure 7, the closure of travel in the southern arch will be for a 2-week period at the beginning and a 2-week period at the end. And throughout the rest of the period, it will remain open. And we have a few more graphics here where the center span, half in Needham, half in Newton. This section is a little bit different than the southern span. So looking at the cross section on figure 10, the difference is that, as you can see in the photograph, as well as the plan, the center arch has these existing granite wall pieces already in place. So the center arch is probably about 10 feet deeper than the northern and southern arch. And obviously, you guys know this is a navigable channel, so we wanted to make sure that, you know, we really minimized the impact for this particular arch. So the contractor is evaluating taking the support pieces and dropping them from on top of the bridge and putting them on rollers and sliding them into place. So the idea is that the workers that need to be down here while that operation is occurring will be on some type of a flotation device, some kind of a raft or a boat. And in that way, we're not putting anything into the bottom of this channel. And
Can I ask a question?
absolutely.
So you're saying that they're gonna try to install this and maintain flows through the center arch at the same time without a cofferdam or making it dry.
Correct. Yep. We're going to block recreational travel.
Sure.
During that 2-week period in the beginning and 2-week period at the end, which is why we have these little span closed and, you know, the little X. And I have another plan that I'll show you.
Yeah, you probably put
for
some
advanced
fencing
signage.
or something out in front.
I'm sorry?
You'll probably put some fencing or something out in front, you know, on flotation devices to keep canoers or something out of there on the weekends and so forth, right?
Well, see, here's the thing though, is that we're only going to shut it while they're working.
Okay.
So I would assume, and Mike Smith, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that at the end of every day, when they work on the center arch, they're, you know, because they're dropping it from above and putting it on these rollers, that they'll kind of clean up at the end of every day. Whereas the southern arch, they're going to put those sandbags and they're going to keep the sandbags there for the whole 2-week period. And they'll also do dewatering as well.
Oh, this is Mike with Geo. So when we do the center span, you know, the center span when we're installing it, it would be closed for the full 2 weeks. And at the end of the day, like the site will be clean, but it would still be closed at the end of the day. We would leave our rafts in place and our platform in place.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
And that's more of a safety concern. We can't have people passing through there while we're still building the supports.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's not bolted down 100% or something.
Can I just, this is not an engineering question, it's more of a public safety question. Are you going to be alerting like canoe rental places or other recreational?
Yes.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
a PR firm working for us, and they're
Okay.
going to reach out to all parties who maybe take interest in that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so figure 16, it kind of shows what our plan is, that the signage we're going to put right at the bridge would be the span closed and the X on both sides of the bridge. And then upstream and downstream, we're going to find a location where we can say that, you know, the center span is closed ahead, because the north span and the south span, you know, they're going to travel through the center span anyway. So it's when that center span needs to be closed, we're going to put this. So we do have a running list. If there's an organization or some kind of a canoe rental place that you are aware that travels through here, you know, we'll absolutely make sure they're on the list. We've got the Watershed Association, we've got both towns, and I believe there's a boat launch just right down here. That's going to be
the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then just to go through that when we do the southern span, we will have this turbidity barrier in there, and then we will have a dewatering discharge basin. Location to be determined in the field. It will be back on figure 7. It will, you know, likely be somewhere on, I guess, this top side. You know, we'll try to find the best location out in the field for where that needs to be.
But you're sure there's space for it. It's just a matter of exactly where it's going to be.
Yeah, there's certainly more space down here, but this is, you know, more of a wet area. So when the guys get out there and do the tree clearing, they'll assess the area and come up with a location, and then obviously, you know, they'll share that with you.
Quick question. Did they already do the tree clearing?
They only did the tree clearing that was approved in the original NOI.
Okay.
So we're asking for additional tree clearing tonight. And I can show you that plan right now. I'll just buzz right back to the beginning here. And so, excuse me. Whoops, let me get back to the photograph. So this is a photograph of the southeastern quadrant where the DCR property is, where we have drainage outfall right here, and that kind of runs through this swale.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to kind of do a little color code system here. So we've got 3 trees that are over 8 inches, and we've got a handful more of these smaller trees that are less than 6 inches. These 2 trees will be retained, so we're not touching those. We just need to have enough clearance to get this overhead wire to be somewhere, you know, over here. So with that, we have a plan where, whoops, oh, I moved my tree. All right, we're not putting the tree in the middle of the road. There we go. And this is just our first stab at it. You know, we're open to, you know, making modifications here if needed. So what we have is the way to read this plan is everything that is black and white has been previously approved in the 2018 NOI. What I have in red are the new trees. So because of where we need to put the temporary pole with the wires, these few trees right here are going to be what needs to be removed. And then we're figuring that, you know, I just showed 4 trees here. We can certainly put in shrubbery or, you know, any other kind of plant. You know, we have a whole plant list here from what was approved from DCR. I have to admit, I'm not a landscaper, so I don't know if, you know, how many of these trees would do well down here in the actual kind of the wetland area. So, you know, we just proposed a shad tree. Our understanding is that that is a pretty healthy tree for a wet area. And then on the other side, got a few pictures here. This is the essentially the paved driveway for the property owner. And looking, you know, along the river, we've got this kind of this twin tree, one at the end. And I tried to label these. So when we're looking at a different angle, this AB tree is this AB tree over here. And then C is at the corner of the driveway, which is this one. And then we've got a few other smaller trees. And then the most significant one is this clump of what looks like at least a half a dozen trees that are in the way of the wall for the new bridge. I'm sorry, for the new sidewalk on the bridge. And then this is just a different view that you can see the tree a little bit better here. You know, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 or 8 of them. And then we have a dead tree here that we're going to take down just to get it out of there. So with that, we have a plan view here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit here to make it a little easier to see. But you can see the red X's are the trees that we need to take down. These are all under 6 inches with the exception of this clump, depending on how you want to classify that clump as 8 separate trees or 1 big tree. But again, because this gray area is paved and we do have the existing wing wall here, you know, I just showed 4 of those shad downy trees. Again, we can modify that however we need to, but we could put these trees in there. So let's see. And I think that covers all of our graphics. I do have some graphics that just show the different impacts with the areas. So this would be the work. What's in green is the work that we would need to do within the BVW related to the clearing that's needed for the overhead wire and the access to get under the the southern span. And then bordering land subject to flooding. Again, this has to do more with the clearing and the access to get underneath that span. And then this is a clarification on the riverfront area where this area over here and this area over here was added to what we had previously, because, you know, basically we had just gone right up to the bridge because we weren't planning on doing anything in here. And then lastly, oh, I already went over that one. So I guess I'll open it up to questions, or if you need me to go over anything else in more detail, just let me know.
I think that's a very thorough start. Let me go through the commission members and see if people have specific questions. Artie? I see your mouth say no question.
Sorry. No, I think it's great. I mean, obviously there's a lot of I use word quote complications to deal with the old bridge and what's going on, and try to maintain the conservation aspect of it and things like that. We do the best we can. It looks like you're doing the best you can to take care of what has to be taken care of.
Thanks, Artie. Allison?
I wanted to comment that the plant list is great. Those plants should do well. Hi, Marie. And I might, because I think you're taking down a few more trees. I think that one clump is really, you can't just call it one tree. So I think it'd be great if where you have the shad, which are really an understory tree, they don't get that tall, but they're an understory tree, you could put some shrubs in and around that as well to kind of hold the bank while the shad are growing. The small little shrubs. It could be any of them, really.
Any of the ones in the plant list?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Okay.
they're all like the amomum. The Cornus amomum is great. The silky, that's really near the water. Shad would do great. I did have one question, and this is maybe an ignorant question, and maybe you covered it in 2018. I don't know, but because you're going to keep the water is going to keep going through, except when maybe there's some dewatering that happens when you're pouring the concrete footings in the shallow area, and then you take them out and people go back and forth and they repoint and they put the temporary in and then they take the temporary down. And there's a lot going to be going on during those two-week periods, and also when they're repointing. Are there any like gas powered equipment that is going to be under the bridge that could be an issue? Because normally, when I've seen bridge projects, you don't have the water keeping going underneath it. You have a cofferdam, and then you're able to, to see where there's a spill or see where there's a problem. When you have the water keep going under it, how do you control that if you actually have any kind of gas powered equipment?
So I guess I'll start, and then Mike, if you want to follow up. But
yeah, why don't we defer that to Mike
okay, perfect.
and his staff. Thank you, Marie.
You're welcome.
Hey guys. So the north and south span, we definitely would have our equipment, and we'd pull those off onto land every night. But in the center span, you'd have an excavator on top lowering stuff down to you, and we have like a gas powered boat. Like with a 10, 15 horsepower motor down in the water, but there's not really any equipment down there. We're lowering it and then we roll it into place. That's all by hand. Then we install boards up top, and then to get the pea stone in, a blowing truck comes in and blows in the pea stone. So there's not really any heavy equipment in the center span over the water.
Mike, I think for the commission, why don't you outline what you're going to have other for mitigation, spill kits and things of that nature, and how you're going to manage that.
Yep. So we have the containment boom downstream, and then every night we wouldn't leave an excavator down in the river. We pull those off into land, and yeah, we always have spill kits on site. So, yeah, I'm open to any other suggestions on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Bill, any thoughts?
Janet and Deb and I had an opportunity to have a pre-construction meeting out there, and just a general comment that when you look at a project like this, it's complicated, and the logistics of just access and tree clearing and what phasing of the whole project needs to be well thought out. And I just had confidence in the team that was out there with the engineers and the contractor that they were making all the appropriate decisions. So I have no comments any specific to what's in front of us tonight.
Steve, do you have any other thoughts?
No comments.
Good. Sue?
No comment. Very, 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 very thorough.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I only have one question. This is in terms of the replanting, restoration. Is just what the count of the trees taken down is going to be, and then the count of the trees / shrubs that'll be replaced. And you gave me this, on the plan, you have those big circles, and I couldn't tell if it's a single tree going in there, multiple trees, shrubs. That's just the areas where you think the new things are going in.
Right. No, the big circles represent one tree.
One tree.
And the direction that we had from the 2018 approval was any tree over 6 inches was to be replaced 2 to 1.
2 to 1.
So that's how we approach this. So we have 3 trees on this side, and then the big clump of trees that we counted as a 4th tree. So we put back 4 on each side. So that would be the 8 trees. So even though we're taking down some of these other trees, they were less than 6 inches. So we can certainly supplement that with the shrubbery. And I believe somebody had recommended one of these that you'd like to see. Could somebody just tell me what that is again, and we can add that particular one?
It's Cornisamoma.
Okay, so the
one,
CM.
yeah. CM,
okay.
yeah.
CM, perfect.
Yeah, so
you know, we can certainly add that to both sides of the bridge.
I think given that the clump maybe isn't 8 trees, but it is not one tree, maybe that would be good to supplement a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, we're just running really tight on space for trees. So, and the downfall is on, you know, the area underneath the utility lines. We have to make sure that we use a smaller tree because we don't want the tree to grow up into, and you know, we certainly don't want a tree to grow over and start hanging over the sidewalk. So, you know, that's another thing we kind of kept in mind.
Yes, there are multiple dimensions in terms of placing things. I think.
Right.
I think
Right,
we just
yeah,
want to
so-
make sure that what was taken down lives to grow, which is one of the reasons for the 2 to 1, because it's, you know, 75% is the standard for passing.
Understood.
Good. So
I
Deb,
have a question, yeah.
yes, Deb.
Thanks. So when we met, one of the main reasons for the minor modification was the increase in disturbance to the land under water bodies and waterways. I think originally it was 200 square feet. And so what is that at now for the minor mod?
So what I have here is we originally had 200 square feet because we had anticipated just the scaffolding. So the legs of the scaffolding would, you know, add it up to be the 200 square feet. So now we've got 2,700 added. So the total would be 29. And that 2,700 includes the area, the entire area underneath right here. So we've got a breakdown here of how we calculated that. So we've got the sandbags, you know, silk curtain, we don't have any, but the temporary footings, the scaffolding, the green little post bases, and then the biggest impact of the 1720 is more or less just where people and the equipment will be when they install the support system over that 2-week period in the beginning and 2-week period in the end, and then our dewatering sump locations.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Any questions from audience members? This is Clay disappeared. I don't see, if I look at people's hands, if I look at the participants, I don't see any hands. So I'm going to assume that there's no no member of the public who wants. Clay, there's no one.
No hands are raised, correct.
Okay, terrific. So where do we go now? So this is just a matter of voting to approve at this point, the minor mod. Yes. I see.
I'm
You're
trying to
nodding your
find
head.
myself. I'm like, where am I? Yes, exactly.
All right. Do we have enough information? I guess I've gone through the commissioners. There are no more questions. So I would entertain a motion to approve this minor modification.
Motion to approve the minor modification as presented.
I second.
All in favor, Artie,
Sorry, aye. Sorry.
Allison,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Steve,
I'm sorry, I need to abstain.
understood. Sue,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So we have our minor modification is approved. All right.
Thank you very much.
That one's
Thank you
closed
so
out.
much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Quick question. Sorry. So who should I be sending this to?
Me.
Send it to you, the physical copy?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I can email it to the whole group.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I will revise the planting plan and I will send it to you just as an FYI.
Okay, yeah, if we could get 2 hard copies mailed out and just the electronic.
Okay.
All right.
Hard copies meaning full size or half size?
Half size would probably do.
Okay. True half size or 11 by 17?
True.
Okay. And I can send them to you, Deb?
Yeah.
Okay. So how about if I do this? How about if I have somebody revise the planting plan tomorrow and send that to you just to review, and then I'll include that revised plan in what I send you.
Sure.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So some other piece of business, Artie, I think everyone got the email that there's a property that's for sale that is on the Charles River, not too far from the Farley Pond area. And so Artie, you were interested in the, yeah.
Yeah, just I mean, it came on, it's on the market. It's $3.5 million. I don't know about, trying to buy the whole thing anyway. I'm not sure what we do with the Tippett House. Is it worth considering trying to do something with the back part of the land, or do we feel we have enough say over that already? I mean, there is, when I look at the property back there, it almost looks like the house next to that property has expanded their yard into the wrong property. So they're expanding their yard where it doesn't belong, often, across boundaries there. I don't know if anyone's looked at the aerial view of it, but do we want to entertain anything with that?
Yeah, so it's going to change hands. And I'm sure the next owner is going to come to us and say, I want to build a bigger house there and push back towards the river. So do we do something that's proactive now, or do we wait until they come and we say, well, we'd like a conservation restriction and the rest?
I mean, basically something like that. Even worth trying to actually technically own the land back there. I mean, it came up because, we had this property in Brookside Road where, it came up, it fell into the ballpark of something we might be able to afford. Then all of a sudden, literally this came around and we're backing right up to the Charles River. Do we try to do something for, like you said, proactively, or is this a sit and wait type of thing? Any thoughts on that one?
How much is it?
It's selling for, I think, $3.5 million. what it's selling for. As I said, I mean, I can't imagine us really really wanting the house necessarily anyway. I don't know what we do with it. But it's more a matter of doing something that's backing up to the Charles River, and the land back there. I don't know.
Is it connected to any other land that's protected?
Not that I know of. I don't know. I mean,
No, not directly. Yeah, it's sort of kitty corner from Farley Pond. So at a diagonal, if you cross the street, you get to Farley Pond.
Yeah,
that trail
yeah,
system.
Yeah, exactly. That's where it is. Yeah, and again, it literally goes right down to the river, and again, it's the lot. The lot as it's going down near the river, it gets fairly wide down there. In fact, it's actually fairly wide. And again, neighbors are encroaching on that land back there, thinking it's their lawn, and that lawn is literally going. Talking about close to the river, that lawn is literally going probably right up to the bank of the river by feet. Literally, it's going to feet to the bank of the river. You know, a small row of what is it there?
Yeah,
very small row of trees there. We're literally right on the bank of the river. Oh, so I just wanted to throw it out there.
Any
Could it be-
thoughts? Yeah, Sue?
I was just gonna say, in the future, could it be connected to, could it be a link? Could it be a connection to some future land along the Charles there?
Only if we start now.
Start collecting your monopoly properties.
Only if we start now. Does it have any possibility of anything? Trying to do something back there. I just don't know what we can do or what we want to do.
Mm.
I'll throw my 2 cents in there. I like the idea. Again, I think this would have been ideal for Brookside Road. The $3.5 million is a bigger nut to bite off. And then, you know, my sense was that if we were to embark on something like this, not only would we buy the land, but say if this was Brookside Road was obvious, that was an easy one. The house is already demolished. It would just be almost filling in, moving the debris. There'd be a minor charge for that, but this would be different. You'd probably want to demolish the house and return the property to a wild state, which would probably cost a lot more money.
Yep.
So, and again, it's the Charles River. I don't know if this property has a private septic. Again, the Brookside Road one has private septic, which you're always worried about getting into the wetland. Maybe this area is on public septic, so that's less of an issue. And like I said, with the cost, maybe we want to wait until there's a more feasible property that, again, is more valuable to us than just something on the Charles. But it's the right idea, Artie, and it's great that you saw that. So I think this is something that we should think about more often.
Yeah, I'll go down the line of commissioners to see if they have any thoughts. Allison?
Hold on. I think it's great to think about these things. I think it's a lot of money. And it's not connected to anything, but I know where you're going, and I think it's a good way to go. It might be easier to have a conservation restriction and do that as the properties change hands all along the Charles River. I mean, that would be ideal, and maybe there's a little path one day that everybody can enjoy. To buy the whole land, it's so expensive, and then the house is complicated and it's really expensive, especially now. So I think that we just keep, I'd like to go the conservation route, and we just keep that in mind with all the properties down there. And they all abuse the lawn going to the river. It's all a problem. So that's my thoughts. A little bit jumbled.
Thanks, Allison. Bill, do you have any thoughts?
Bill, you muted yourself.
Sorry, I don't haven't really formulated an opinion at this time. So
great.
I like the idea when it's sort of a master plan and it can connect to a bigger system or bigger plan. But, overall, no, not at this time.
Thanks, Bill. Steve, you had, and then Sue, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I tend towards in the future, maybe conservation restriction in the future where it could kind of be a connection. That's where I stand.
Right, since the valuable part for us may be along the river and not so much the part near the street. Yeah. All right.
What is,
Artie, I think you've heard from the commission.
no, that's a question I have. No, I got that, Peter. The question I have is, what is the pathway for the conservation? I mean, when a conservation, whether this property is something else, what is the pathway for a conservation restriction? I mean, you know, we can't just go to someone and say, I mean, is it something where is that something more related to a partnership with the property owner where we give the Conservation Commission in trade for less taxes?
Exactly. No, it's a mitigation thing. Typically, they want to do something that pushes against our boundaries, and then we say, well, give us this. Like that.
Yeah.
Like the property when they take out down all those trees, you go, well, what are you going to give us back?
Okay.
Oh man, they started cutting all those trees down.
So is it never, not that I want less taxes, but is it never something where the property owner is incentivized to do it because they aren't in essence aren't paying taxes on that part of the land, for example? Like, for example, if it was our land, we wouldn't be paying taxes on it.
Is that a tax break when you put it to conservation?
Anyone know?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's a big part.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We just have one other thing I wanted to bring up. I sent you, so the MACC conference is April 6th to the 17th this year virtually. So it's coming up fast. Janet was interested in signing up. So you can sign up either for the whole conference or if there's just one, what's the word? Help me, Clay.
Seminar.
Thank you.
Webinar.
Yeah, one of
Yeah,
those.
webinar.
If there's just one, we can pay for that separately. But we need to know who's interested as soon as we can because it starts like soon. It starts on the 6th.
6th of April.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks from Saturday.
Yeah.
And then-
So,
I'll go to it. I've gone to it before. I'll go to it. I didn't go last year though.
so you want the whole shebang?
Yeah, I don't think it was much. I mean, there's various seminars I've gone to in the past.
Yeah.
Some of them are pretty enlightening, and some of them are.
Yeah, no, they have some good new ones. Okay, so I have to figure out, because you need to pick what you want to go to kind of thing. So I'll figure out with Elisa, you know, how to go about it, but anybody else know that they want to? Bueller? No Buellers. Okay.
And then what did you want some feedback about Earth Day? Was that worth talking about as the commission?
Definitely.
Yeah, so the town has reached out and wondered if Concom wanted, actually it was a specific thing,
No,
right?
yeah.
There was
It
a
was
mountain
Borelli,
bike group.
Matt Borelli is in with this mountain bike riding group of kids. And they were looking to do like a trail project or something on Earth Day. I guess there's 50 of them. So anyways, it was passed on to me through Kate and wondering if we had any ideas. They had brought up doing something at Ridge Hill, Cutler Park, or the town forest. I forwarded it to Janet. She thought since we don't allow mountain bike riding at Ridge Hill, that probably wouldn't be a good match. Cutler Park is owned by DCR, so that wouldn't be through us. You know, she had brought up, you know, where there's down trees, having someone else cut them and then they can move them. Or just giving them trash bags and having them go out on trails and pick up trash. So I didn't know if anyone had any ideas or specific properties.
Yeah, I concur with Janet about Ridge Hill. on the other hand, it's a nice opportunity to teach people that, because most people don't know that there's no biking on those trails, or they pretend not to know that there's no biking on those trails.
Mhm.
And they do it anyway. I mean, there's always a biker when I go for a hike who tries to get by me.
Mm.
So it's a good opportunity for education, maybe, about no biking on these trails. But it would help with the dog poop bag pickup if they went along Ridge Hill. I mean, I think maybe the town forest has the same problem.
Mm.
Though I'm not sure that's what we want children to be doing necessarily, but
Okay.
Are they going to be transporting by their bikes wherever they go?
That wasn't
that the point of
clear,
it?
but it is kind of assumed. And Clay, if you want to chime in, Clay had an idea.
I believe last year somebody in Parks and Rec, who's no longer with us, was working with an organization called Keep Mass Beautiful, which is kind of a cool organization that works with local people to develop like Keep Needham Beautiful chapters. And so I believe they had a cleanup day, a spring cleanup last year. I know that they work with a lot of communities to do Earth Day cleanups. So that's something that we're currently exploring to see if Parks and Rec already has them in the loop, or if we should be reestablishing a Keep Needham Beautiful chapter. But it seems like, depending on how long the turnaround is to kind of get that off the ground, it might be a good opportunity where we have, 50 volunteers already ready to go, and then picking up wherever else as we get the word out to kind of have a good established, hopefully annual pickup.
All right.
I have an idea that,
Clean.
if this is the first time these 50 bikers, little, kids have done anything, that it might be nice to have something that's a little bit more interesting or creative. Not that picking up is not incredibly important. And ideas that I have is, and somebody would have to, fund some of this, would be like planting wildflowers. But you'd have to have somebody help them, that you could see from the trail, or, making a sign that would be some kind of, wildlife that you could see from the trail, or a bird, that it could be a kind of an art project. I know that this is more difficult and
Well, just
complicated
in the amount of time we have.
in the amount of time. And I'm just
Yeah.
thinking that in terms of, this is why something, maybe we could have ideas like this on the shelf,
Right.
that actually are little drawings, materials. You could make this and you could put it here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kids love to make things, and they love to tie nature and themselves to nature.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying cleaning up is not incredibly important. I'm not downing it, but it's just like, if there's one day, it would be great. I think the best thing, that's why they used to plant trees, but you don't want people tromping through the woods and stuff. But if somebody could plant a little wildflower, somebody could plant, or, something, just make a little fairy circle around,
Yeah.
around, you know what I mean? Just that could tie the imagination of the child to nature. Cleaning up is an adult thing. I know it's important to teach this to children, but it's really hard to connect with a child when you give them a rake.
Yeah, it's just a chore.
It's a
That
chore.
way.
It's like,
Yeah.
it has no imagination to it. So, and if we're trying to engender love of nature in children, yes, cleaning up is important, of course, but if there's only one day, I think it would be better if it was a little bit more personal and more life and riveting and an individual connecting to nature. I don't know what that is, but that's just my own.
I agree.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And part of that is having somebody help them and do that with them. In other words, somebody volunteering to do whatever it is, who loves nature and understands nature. And this is one thing you could do. And there are many different things they could do, but I think that they should come up with something and we should vet it. I like that idea better.
yeah, I think what's interesting about the cleanups is that they reinforce this idea that environmentalism is about don't litter. Like that's the key value of environmentalism.
It's incredibly important. I'm not saying it is, but if you only have one day, Peter.
but But yeah,
All
I mean,
these
there's so
boys
much
that are mountain
more.
biking, there may be girls, but I mean, I don't know.
No, I have a counterpoint. I mean, I did this with my daughter about 10 years ago. And I think she was 7 or 8 at the time. She loved it. She
Oh, okay.
loved taking the bag, cleaning everything up. And in fact, the kids were competitive about it. When they saw a piece of trash, they would run for it. So they would
Okay.
compete with each other to get the most trash.
You have a different daughter than I had.
So I mean, I can see this as a fun activity. Potentially for these mountain bike
Okay.
kids. Is
Okay.
Rosemary a good one? Does that make sense? Can you mountain bike on Rosemary?
I don't think so.
Kind of wet.
Well,
So what essentially what the email was, that the Youth Mountain Bike Club I'm part of are looking to do some trail cleanups and trail work as part of Earth Day. There's 50 kids from Needham and neighboring towns. It's a great mix of kids. We just started our season a couple weeks ago and have been looking to do some community outreach. I'm thinking of doing a trail day, maybe in Cutler, Needham Town Forest, or Ridge Hill. Cutler probably needs the most attention, but I would love to work with the town on this. So
Park
that's
and
kind of-
Rec, they used to have an annual town cleanup, didn't they?
Who?
I
Who did?
remember that.
Park and Rec?
Park and Rec.
Yeah, probably.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. And the Charles River Watershed Group, I think they
Watershed.
have one too,
Yeah,
right?
they have Yeah.
And actually, I should probably read
I
this
like-
letter to you guys as well. This was forwarded to me by Kate, and it's to the Needham Conservation Commission as well. So this is from someone named Janice Hunt. She says, long ago, my late husband Roger was chair of the Conservation Commission. We worked very hard to preserve Ridge Hill Reservation with federal and state funding as well as support from the town. I'm pleased to see so many people walking there on a regular basis with and without dogs. It is a town treasure, a place of peace, relaxation, contemplation, and pleasure. But maintenance is horrific, an embarrassment to our town. In addition to poor upkeep, signage and trail maps are inadequate. Good management and protection are essential. Wonderful walks are available in neighboring communities, many belonging to nonprofit groups. But Wellesley and Weston have outstanding town-owned and well-managed properties to explore. Why not Needham? We have spent freely on new schools, public safety buildings, playing fields. The trustees of reservations with over 120 properties across the state, including Needham's Charles River Peninsula, have had good fortune because many arborists have joined together, donating work for maintenance at their properties. There are many such companies based in Needham. Wonder if they might have some ideas. In the past, some Needham Boy Scouts have volunteered for such maintenance. The rail trail has gained fans and publicity. Perhaps your leadership could enhance Ridge Hill. By the way, did you know the esker running through Ridge Hill is mentioned in a John Le Carre book? If he took notice, shouldn't we? Thank you for your attention. Janice Hunt, 969 South Street. So I responded back to Kate. I said I would get in touch with her, but our CPC signage and trail map initiatives, we're trying to get the trail steward program going again. The trails committee, just letting her know that we are working on things. And I know, there's been debris and DPW stuff up around the buildings for a few years now, which is pretty unsightly, but they're going to be taking those down. So anyways, but since it was also to the Conservation Commission, I figured I would read it to you.
Yeah.
so can I ask? Can I ask what the timetable is on the tear down of those buildings?
Yeah.
They just, I just talked to Mike Retsky, who's kind of in charge of that. And I think that they're thinking of starting this summer.
Are they going to be closing? I mean, from a public safety point of view, there's going to be much more heavy traffic going back and up and down that driveway, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have to, you know, we have to protect the fields. You know, they're gonna have to put some kind of
Right, because they're going to be
controls
tempted.
along the roadway.
Mhm.
So,
Well, something to look forward to.
yeah.
All right. Any other business?
I think that's it. As far
All
as
right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right. Good night,
Thanks.
everyone.
Good
Thank you,
night.
everyone. Good night.
Night.
Night.